Back inside Big 12 today, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, this guy. And now we're talking with Chancellor Johnson, our Big 12 storyteller, Big 12 connoisseur, Big 12 analyst. Chancellor, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. How are you guys?
Man, we're great. Hope you're up and wired because I've got to put you on the spot. Your Big 12, all Big 12 first team. You have 10. You have 10 guys. Okay, you've got 10, which I know the league will release 10. But I want to hear your best 5. Who are your best 5, starting 5 for your all Big 12 first team?
Okay, yeah, I have no problem with this one. So I'm going to go at my 1. I'm going to go Christian Anderson. I thought out of all the point guards, he had the best season. Then at my 2, I'm going to go Braden Burris. 3, we'll go AJ DeBonsa. 5, I'll go Mo Krivas. And 4, who is my 4 man? Could go Joshua Jefferson. Who are my other options? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Since you put him on the spot.
Probably Jefferson. Probably Badunga would be in the conversation. JT Toppin. Did you say Toppin?
JT Toppin. So that was my 5. So it'll go. I'll go Christian Anderson, Braden Burris, AJ DeBonsa, JT Toppin, and then I'll finish with Mo Krivas. That is my all Big 12 first team starting 5.
Not bad. You visited with Jamie Dixon in a video that I encourage people to check out. I mean, they're hot right now. They're as good as any team in college basketball. You know, what were your takeaways from their win and what Jamie Dixon said to you?
Yeah, for starters, they had a big win, obviously, over Cincinnati. We're talking about 2 teams who are trying to find their way to the NCAA tournament. TCU was in a bit of a better predicament heading into that game versus Cincinnati, but they knew, in order to be able to secure that spot, they had to win on Saturday at home, and so they were able to do that over Cincy. But now, you're talking about a team that is playing their best basketball at the perfect time of the year. They're winners of 8 out of their last 9, and really, they've come a really long way since they lost their regular season opener against New Orleans, right? And so they dug themselves in an early hole. Whenever you have a rough loss like that, particularly at home, it's hard to overcome that. But Jamie Dixon and the Horned Frogs, they've kind of flown underneath the radar, but they've continued, especially as I mentioned late, to win games, especially when you look at winning on the road versus Texas Tech. I think that's what really helped propel them in their second to last game here. And you talk about some of their rebounding and how they were able to get it done, on the boards. Xavier Edmonds, a candidate for newcomer of the year. You have David Punch, who's had a really nice season as well. And so TCU, they're hot right now. And so I'm interested to see if they can pick up a couple games in the Big 12 tournament. And then, listen, they're not, in the upper echelon of Big 12 teams like a Arizona or a Houston or so on. However, they are battle tested. They played those teams, and so I think that matters when you get to the NCAA tournament, to where they've had experience going against a number of different types of teams, and I think all the Big 12 teams have, playing a superstar led team like a BYU and AJ DeBonsa, or playing a really physical team like Houston, or playing just a dominant team like Arizona. They've seen it all, and so they can adapt once they get to the NCAA tournament.
Are they, you think, the number 1 candidate to be kind of a dark horse sleeper at this Big 12 tournament, or is there somebody else that you have your eye on?
As far as the tourney goes, I'll probably say it would have to be TCU. I think if you're looking at some of the top teams, obviously I got to see where they are in that bracket. I believe they're in Arizona's top half, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be hard to playing that many games, and trying to win a championship, since they don't have the double buys. I'll look for the Big 12 winner to come out of a team that has one of the double buys. But yeah, TCU, I have a lot of confidence in them just going into the NCAA tournament in general.
We're talking with Chancellor Johnson here. Do you feel like with Houston, a team that you're very close to, what a bizarre. I mean, who's Chase McCarty? Where did he come from? We're starting to see more of Mercy Miller. What a bizarre, weird situation here, because normally you get to the tournament and your rotation shrinks, and Kelvin Sampson's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, it all started during that tough stretch that they had, where they had to end up playing Arizona, Iowa State, and Kansas. This is when it was in a different order, but it was that tough 3-game stretch there, and they learned that they had to do something different. And so what they ended up doing was they ended up benching Isaiah Harwell, and so he was the 5-star freshman who came in with Kingston Flemings and Chris Snack Jr. And we all know Houston, they had some of their offensive struggles. And so Mercy Miller has always, to me, been one of their better offensive players, but it was kind of give and take with some of the defensive liability. But credit to Mercy for figuring it out on that end of the court and allowing himself to play. And he's gotten in the game and gave him some great minutes. He adds the dynamic of having a ball handler. He can shoot it. I don't know if you remember a couple games ago, it was actually versus Iowa State where he came down the lane and he punched on somebody nasty, right? So now you add a better rotational player in Mercy Miller. And then you have Chase McCarty, who Kelvin Sampson has always been high on. And he was having to split those minutes with Isaiah Harwell, but he's kind of your prototypical 3-and-D type of guy, to where he's not really going to put the ball on the floor a ton. He's always going to make the right play, but they had a lot of confidence in him shooting the basketball. And so earlier on in games, in non-conference play and conference play, it just really wasn't working out. He wasn't hitting those shots until really the past couple of games. Once they made that switch, he's feeling more and more confident, and that's how he was able to knock down 6 threes. And actually was going to make a video on it. That was one of the best things that could have happened to Houston, because when I talk about teams that can get to the Final Four, when you look at the Arizonas, the Michigans, the Dukes, Houston is a team that I think can get to the Final Four, certainly, especially overall with the talent and the defense. But I thought compared to some of the national championship contenders, they were working a little bit more uphill. And I thought that in order for them to get there, they were going to have to unlock something new, a different dynamic. And around this time of the year, that's really tough to do. But then when you have a guy like Chase McCarty come off the bench and Mercy Miller, who are now giving you a bench element that you did not have before, and gives you options when other guys might not have it, or when other guys get in foul trouble, like we saw on Saturday versus Oklahoma State, that now adds a little something else to when you get to the NCAA tournament, you have a different dynamic and element that can maybe help Houston get back to the Final Four.
Talking with Chancellor Johnson here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. Chancellor, what's your take with BYU? That is a very high variance team for me. They looked really good late in the second half to close out Texas Tech at home. They have the top scorer in the country in DeBonsa, but it was Rob Wright that took over that game. And they're a 10 seed in the Big 12 tournament. So are you leaning BYU could make a run in this Big 12 tournament and even the NCAA tournament?
So let's start with the conference tournament, I'm going to say no. I think as far as runs go, it'd be nice to see them pick up a game, but they are in Houston's bracket, and so because they're a 10 seed, they have to play on Tuesday. And so, if you talk about a run, like I think by the time if they're able to win those couple of games and get to Houston on Thursday, talking about a team that's going to have, physical matchup as is played in back-to-back days. Now you're asking them to go play Houston. Good luck, right? Like that's just a tough ask for anybody, especially when you don't have those buys. And so I think it's a tough challenge for them. But I do want to see them pick up a couple games in the Big 12 tournament and have some momentum going to the NCAA tournament. Now, once they get to the NCAA tournament, any game that they play in, they will have the best player on the court 9 times out of 10 in AJ DeBonta. And so I think that alone makes the BYU Cougars very dangerous. However, as you mentioned, they are a high variance team, and so where they've had some tough losses down the stretch. I really want to see them get that win versus Texas Tech to close the year, just because I wanted to see them if they could beat one of those top teams, because we just really haven't seen it a ton this season. And so I think that was really important for them to do, especially they were down early and they were able to come back, and obviously Texas Tech's a good team. I think Texas Tech is a team that can actually make a legitimate run even without JT Toppin in the NCAA tournament. And so they're going to need more from Davis Jr. He was able to have 16 points, one of his better games of the season. AJ DeBonsa didn't shoot the ball all that well, but Rob Wright III, he had a big game. That's going to be the formula. In order for them to get there, I expect DeBonsa to be a guy in March Madness, right? He's clearly built for it. But in order for them to get to where they want to go, and I think their ceiling might be capped in the second weekend of the tournament, it's going to take those three and Kiba Keita to have a real chance at this thing.
Chance, if there's one team that can make a run in this tournament that, can steal that automatic bid, do you see anybody potentially being able to do that?
No. I'm sorry. Like
maybe Baylor? Baylor, maybe? No.
No. I mean, if I'm being honest, right? Like, I'm trying to think. Baylor is Baylor in Arizona's bracket?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, because they have to play on Tuesday as well. And so when you get to that third day and you have to play Arizona and you have to go against,
and they haven't played yet, right?
Yeah, and like that's if they get there. And so I think I'd even say this: Iowa State, for them to finish tied for third in the Big 12, but now they had the fifth seed, and so now they lose one of the bye. So now they only have a single bye, and they have to play a game, and then their quarterfinals matchup is Arizona. And so even if they are able to play Arizona and beat them, all right, cool. Now you just had to bang and bruise versus one of the most physical teams in the entire country, and then you had to play. I forgot who they would match up with, and then potentially Houston or Kansas or Texas Tech. So like that's just a tough ask, and so I think it's either going to come from one of those teams that won one of those double byes.
Chancellor, I want to get your thoughts on Iowa State because they've had a little bit of a rocky finish to their season, but took care of business in the second half, at least against Arizona State. And Tamin Lipsey took the court at Hilton Coliseum for the final time on Saturday. Joshua Jefferson, post-game, was talking about how going to Iowa State was the best decision of his life. Just how does TJ Otzelberger get those guys to stay? And I know Lipsey's a local kid, but it just feels like stories like this won't exist and rarely exist now.
You're certainly right. Tamin Lipsey will go down as one of the best Cyclones ever, and obviously they've had some really great players in the course of program history. But as far as what Otz has been able to build there, it's almost like Houston in a way. It's a culture, right? When you enter Hilton Coliseum, it feels like family, and I think that means something over there, in the Midwest part of the country. And so obviously they've had a really great year. I'm excited to see what they do in the NCAA tournament. I think they're a lot like BYU in a way. They're a better team, but they have some high variances as well. They're a team that has the talent to get to the Final Four, but they're also a team that I think come round to 32, if they come in there sleepwalking, which at times beginning of the year, if you remember the beginning of conference play, where they struggled out of the gate in some games, and that certainly hurt them, right? And so Joshua Jefferson, who for the most part has played like an All-American down the stretch, I don't think he finished the year the way he would have wanted to, but he's still, as I mentioned, one of the best players in the country, so versatile, can do a lot of different things. They have some bench depth as well too, and so I'm interested to see how they play in the tournament. High variance team, and so I think I'm interested to see even going to the Big 12 tournament. If they can get to play Arizona, can they beat them, right? In a neutral setting, neutral, more so home, right? And Arizona travels well, but anytime you go to Kansas City, we know the Cyclones fanatics, they'll certainly be there and bring the juice. But I'm excited to see them play throughout this next few weeks.
Chancellor, are we going to see you up in KC later this week?
Yes, you will. I fly out tonight, so I will be there all week long. Excited to cover what's going to be a really fun tournament and then get a chance to connect with you guys as well. It'll be really awesome out there in KC.
Dude, if you're flying out tonight, you better head to the airport as soon as we wrap here.
Oh my goodness. It was obviously, I'm flying out of Houston. And so if you saw those lines yesterday, you're talking about 4 to 5 hours. So yeah, I'm going to pack up my stuff. My flight's at 8:30. And so, let's go ahead and get out there right now. And make sure I pick
Thousands of people were missing flights over the weekend because the security line, even in TSA pre-check, was over 4 hours.
Yep. And so listen, I don't have wealth like you guys, so I'm just a regular, regular check-in. So unfortunately, I don't have TSA pre-check.
No TSA pre, or
you don't have the luxury experience.
I'm just a regular guy, man. One day, hopefully, maybe when I get around you guys this week in KC, I can just touch you guys, and maybe it'll rub off on me a little bit. You know what I mean? But until then, I just gotta get in line with the regular people.
There we go. All right, seriously, don't miss that flight. Can't wait to see you up in Kansas City later on.
See you, bud.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That is the Chancellor Johnson here on Big 12 Today. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. A lot to unpack with Chancellor. Cannot wait to catch up with him up in Kansas City. But coming up next, we head into the NCAA tournament. We look ahead. Bubbles are bursting all over the country. Bubble teams went 0-9 on Saturday, the latest bracketology, and we have one stat that shows parity in college basketball
is dead.
It's dead. No upsets. That's coming up next. This is Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn.